if you have questions at any time, even while I'm talking right now, I'd rather it be asked than saved. You're not interrupting me, you're just getting clarification, right? So I really appreciate that. And then at the end, if you have anything, there will be a time where I'll just stop and we can kind of talk about anything. So things I'm going to try to plan to cover today are some of these things on this left column. I'm hoping to chat through kind of the rest of this year, what's going to be happening for the next few months. There's a few things that are new and some things that are setting up other elements. I'm going to talk about a transition that's going to happen on our program for what we kind of designate as pep band, what's called a marching band philosophy, and the transition that kind of entails. The work that requires, some of the organizational changes that's going to require of our program and our leadership. We're going to talk a little bit about a proposal I have for you for a funded need for the remainder of this year around a drumline equipment refresh and update, and how that ties into some of the other goals that we're doing. Talking about upcoming attempts to increase our overall instructional impact of the booster money that we have through a sectional pilot program that I'd like to talk with you all about for the upcoming year. Continuing on the focus of enrollment growth, that's something that I came to as my excitement to see the band grow. Our school being as large as it is and seeing more students doing music, I think would be a wonderful thing. And then just a few summary things at the end to kind of go over some stuff. Things I hope you get from this, obviously, is optimism about the future and things that you might get excited about. Something that you are like, that's a great direction for us to be headed. I hope you find something that you might want to ask a question about, or even better yet, something that you might be really excited to help with. Some idea that you have expertise in, or you'd like to see come to fruition and maybe run a committee or help kind of guide an event to a reality. Those are all things that I would love to have happen for us tonight. So hopefully that happens for some of us or all of us here this evening. I shared this this is the exact same slide I shared back in the beginning of the school year. And I start from this place because, again, I try to live these values every single day for your kids. And the things I'm all talking about are still all fitting within this personal vision of mine, or my personal, things I hold myself to around building trust with kids, getting to know each and every one of them really well, and telling them that they can come to me and that I will be their confidant and their ally and their mentor. The optimism in the classroom that we can do well, and of course building around success build rather than failures in the classroom. All the stuff that we're doing here, I think, all feeds into this, and it continues to build on these ideas. It's just new directions and new focuses on these things. These are all still kind of vision statements that I'm building this on as well. Every student deserves great music education. Equal classrooms of support present for every student. Some of the things that you see tonight are going to be about that first statement especially, supporting every kid equally in our classrooms and making sure that both our strongest students and our newest students to playing instruments are being supported as best as we can. Audition and non-audition ensembles with quality musical experiences and rigor. Pep band, marching band, jazz band, wind ensemble, giving more kids a place to belong, so that each tenet of our program has reasons to attract more students and keep them engaged for their full 4 years, right? Every kid's gonna love pep band as much as another kid, but someone's gonna fall in love with the jazz band, or someone's gonna love that wind ensemble experience, or whatever it might be. Build better people and citizens through music education. Again, some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight really tie into this goal of mine, and some of the decisions I make are reinforcing my belief in trying to bring up the world of future educators, about teaching service-minded young people, and investing in instruction that helps leaders grow and build themselves and spread their wings inside of a band program. I talked to you back in the fall about how I wanted us to be synonymous with quality music performance in the state of Washington. And once again, these things are all sort of tying back into this. Some of the things that I'm going to be talking about tonight. All state honors ensembles, WIBIC, conference performances, Midwest Clinic, and more. Seeing our band have programs and travel to places to be considered a top tier wind ensemble, a top tier marching band, a top tier jazz band. Those are goals that I think stem from the idea that if we're doing the other things right, those kinds of things happen. And then, of course, unique and educational travel experiences. So these four kind of tenets of my vision is what kind of leads to some of the ideas that I'm going to be talking about tonight, and my hopeful, some of the changes that we'll be trying to make. Let's talk about a little bit of the rest of the year. Tracy, thank you for bringing up the upcoming Mustang Pep Band, or the band jam that ties into the continuing efforts to increase enrollment and to recruit. We're gonna have students coming here on the 19th. We have a long night with them. Everybody's gonna be doing the band jam, so it's a big double header on a Friday night with the middle school kids joining us. And Wednesday night, and they're gonna be coming up and joining us during the day as well for a little bit of rehearsal time. It's gonna be a really fun time Yes, parents can get involved. It would be cool to figure out a way, and we can talk about this post-meeting and continue this discussion, but it'd be really great to figure out a way to make every one of those kids feel really welcomed, maybe special for coming and taking the time, especially in the evening, because they're not being required to come in the evening. We will have pretty much every RMS kid in the middle of the day for that event. They'll come up and rehearse with the wind ensemble. So
I think we still have a bunch of string bags, don't we?
The goodie bags?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Something like that, that we could have for the kids when they come for that evening, just to thank them for being there. And
We have stickers,
yeah.
don't we?
Lots of stickers. I think I got one handed me tonight. They're everywhere. So yeah, those would be great. That kind of stuff, just that kind of involvement. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. We don't have to feed the kids or anything like that. They'll be back at home for dinner and then come join us for the game. So it should be great. We're going to be joining their classroom a few more times in January. I'm going to go down and clinic them a little bit and have kids come with me. And when we went over to Timberline, it was a really effective visit, we think. That went really well for them to see our students and get excited about joining Redmond Band. Joint concerts in February and March. February 28th, we have a shared zone concert, kind of a thing where we do with RMS and some of the bands. They're going to come. We have another concert with them in March. So those are great events to have us sharing. That's nothing new, but it is, I think, an important point to point out that we're still doing that work. New this year, it's really exciting. One ensemble got invited to go to the Western Band Invitational Festival, which is not an open festival. That's something that you're invited to go to, which is awesome. So really good for those kids, both on their reputation and mine. So it's good to get that invite and get to go up there and hang out with the big kids, because there's a lot of good bands there. Obviously, in April, we've got a group for the jazz band in our program going to New Orleans, and excited about that. We're going to be probably doing at least a festival or two in preparation for that, and I'm threatening to take the jazz band to my alma mater, to Newport Jazz Festival, because it's a really good festival and it's really nearby. I think it'd be actually really fun. We're going to bring in a couple clinicians, work with them in the evening, and try to get them ready for a good showing in New Orleans, so it'll be a good time. Some new things that were coming up. This is something that we talked about a little bit offline. I'm going to be one of the first voices to talk a little bit more publicly about it, so that you kind of know what we're hoping to do. A potential fundraiser that may grow into something really exciting in the next couple of years is trying to do a swing night, where we hire a dance instructor and run a night of dance and swing music, and run a little silent auction, or maybe do a pass the hat, or figure out what the best format is for the parents to raise some money that night. But basically my piece in that is that I put together a really long set of swing music, and we go and we play, and we invite people to come dance and raise some money for the bands and have a good time together. A lot of things you're going to see in the future vision stuff is going to cost us money, and we're going to have to talk about some money things. And I think both coming up with creative musical things that are good for our kids, but also that help us generate really good funds on one evening, is something that we need to start figuring out some formulas for. And I think this might be something that would work for our community. So I don't know, Swingin' Stallions was one that came to mind. Alliteration's a strong one. Huh? Yeah. Stang's Got Swing, that's a good one too. I do really like that one. So the name hasn't been settled on. Stang's Got Swing is a really good name. So we're gonna work together, see if we can make that happen. Yeah, that's kind of the one gist that one event we're trying to bring here to 2024. We're asked what we're in need of right now, my understanding is, besides my commitment to bring the kids to the event, and have the music ready, which may include and should include more than just our jazz band. We'll probably have opportunities for other kids to play too, depending on how we run the event and who's there and how we do it. But would be to have some parents that would be willing to, or excited about trying to chair a sort of a silent auction or some sort of a fundraising evening event, and doing some of the organizational work for that. And then finding a space and kind of reserving a place to do it. As it would be a booster event, my preference would be the funds would be going into your organization and not into a school organization or a school fund. Was that the paper would have to start with a parent within the organization to really make that work correctly. So we need to have those people identified and have that kind of be your impetus to kind of make the reservation and start the process and sign the paperwork. So we need to find the people, if we want to make this happen, that could kind of maybe start poking around, find a location, talk to the organizers there, figure out what that would cost us as an organization to be able to reserve it, a space large enough to be able to do this, and then look for dates, sometime late spring.
So your goal is to do it off campus? Is it something like turn the cafeteria into like a prom type deal?
That would be I think that's the goal. If we have huge challenges with that, and that's like the sticking point, I think it would be more effective to start the event in a different format than to not do it, because that's the problem. I think that that's a fair trade-off. Yeah.
How big a space is that? Is that like a gym size space, a cafeteria size space? Like,
Yeah, like it can be a variety of sizes. I mean, this size of a space could do fine too. You know, it doesn't have to be humongous. You need a stage and then you need a dance floor. And depending on silent auction, if you want to have tables around, if we want to have other performing spaces, how many kids we want to be involved in, how many, you know, tickets we want to sell, we can adjust that. But if we have a bigger space, we could sell more tickets, potentially. Starting small might not be a bad idea because we don't know what numbers we're going to get on the first year. So, right, you kind of want to build it up and go from somewhere. So I imagine sort of a moderate sized space. I think a gym might be too big, honestly, but it would work. It would certainly work.
So you're thinking this event would just be the dance part, not like food or anything like that? Or
It could be hors d'oeuvres. I mean, that's something we could talk about depending on, again, what location we have and what we're thinking, how much we want to stretch, right? I think it would be effective to go pretty, not small, but like kind of keep it reasonable in terms of the reach on the first year and see how we do. But I think, you know, you can make it as much of a party feel as you want. Yeah, make it feel special, make it fancy. Kind of like, you know, I think one of the ideas that came up in our previous conversations was kind of like around Mother's Day, to almost make it kind of like a special, almost like a night out kind of a feel. So you could also have that, and where you have a reason to do hors d'oeuvres and kind of make it feel, have that kind of feel to it. So I will say that the most effective fundraising I've seen of this kind generally has been assisted, which is why you go off campus with another substance that assists with people making decisions like that. And generally speaking, off campus, right, really enables that. There's a lot of licensing that goes around doing that as well, but that's another option that we may look into when we're talking about this. Again, maybe not within the course of this year, just because of the timeline, but I think that could be an effective piece of it if we wanted to make that into something for ourselves that really builds. A couple other changes in the rest of the year. Concerts and stuff look pretty similar, so I'm not putting them up here. You know, your concert cycles are all kind of the same. You'll still have your end of year experience. We're gonna do a band banquet to celebrate kids. We'll do our end of year. The kids were kind of talking about how we might, you know, between like the bowling and that kind of stuff, they still want to see those things happen. So there's not a lot of changes happening there. There is a little bit of change going on in your leadership structure, and I don't know if you've noticed that there's 3 drum majors right now for basketball, but there's going to be at least 2, if not 3, going into next fall as well. We're going to be upping the drum major number and quantity as we audition coming up in the end of this year. We're also going to be doing, following that drum major application process, immediately going into a section leader that's officially adopted and named as a leader. One thing that can be really challenging for kids to navigate is when you're talking about, we want to get more formal and have this system of structure and respect and understanding who's doing what, is then these seniors just kind of suddenly show up and say like, all right, I'm in charge, you know? And some people can kind of maybe begroan that process and say, well, why, you know, what do I say? This isn't my say. There's kind of some hard feelings that can sometimes come up around that. And I found it very effective for me to take that away from the kids and say, look, I'm just going to give somebody who has that official title, and then we're going to train them how to make this work, and we'll work together. If there's problems with that, that's totally fine, right? Kids are, you know, we sometimes just need a designated person. And in the fall, what I saw was a lot of energy and enthusiasm during our pep rehearsals and stuff during summer, but not a lot of organization or effectiveness or efficiency in the time that we did have. So I want to try and improve that. So we're going to try to add just another layer of that so that students have kind of like a title in that, which is a little bit more ownership. And then we'll do our normal band council after all of that. So a little bit of an additional layer to try to help we're going to talk about shortly. We have an overnight band trip, May 31st and June 1st. We've been talking a little bit about this a long time. The plan is currently May 31st and June 1st. Your kids are going to hop on a bus, go to the University of Washington to visit the music department, kind of see their space, receive a clinic from some of the staff members there to help them prepare for the performance the next day. We're going to try to drive down, and currently my thought is, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've been working and talking with the director of bands at Mercer Island High School to go and do a play along with those kids, kind of do a side-by-side concert, and get to meet some other kids that do band at a really high level as sort of a fun stop-in. And then we're going to head down to most likely Auburn for an overnight kind of an outdoor camp location where we'll stay, and then the next morning get up and go to music in the parks and hopefully have a really good time, both playing music, getting some trophies, and then hanging out in the park together. trying to make it just about band, going having a lot of fun just with band kids, you know, and the cost is mostly just to get them on a bus and do the overnight stuff. That's kind of where the biggest costs are. But we think it's going to be a really valuable experience for the kids. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Every kid's invited. It's at concert band, symphonic band, wind ensemble. They're all coming. They're all going to be a part of that experience. So that's coming up. And
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
Have you informed the students of and kind of hammered home the cost? Because
Yes.
we're the fundraiser.
I mentioned the $250 a couple times in class. I feel bad being really hard about it when I haven't done paperwork because I'm waiting on so many people to get back to me. People are so slow. I've been hammering people about getting back about bus quotes and these things. This is my best guess knowing about how much it costs to do some of these things. I did get numbers from a camp that's willing to have us overnight, you know, the $90, and it's $90 a kid, roughly, including meals and lodging. So I do have some hard numbers. I know the Music in the Parks is $61 to get your park pass and be a part of the festival, right? So I know I have some numbers. The problem is the bus quote has just been so slow.
But they can do a quick math and say, okay,
Yeah.
if I make $12 for a
Correct.
case of oranges,
Right.
here's how many I need to sell. Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Cool. Get them close at least.
So
Yep,
are
exactly.
They at a camp with cabins, or are they camping outside?
Cabins.
Just checking.
You'll need chaperones.
We will want some chaperones, absolutely.
No,
Already trying to reserve your spots. I know. May and June is the beginning of a transition into what I talked about earlier, a little bit about one of those big goals up there that we're going to talk more about in a second, which is a transition from a pep band to a marching band mentality. Students are going to be invited to some after-school rehearsals. It's going to be tough to call anything required because, I mean, what's required nowadays anyways? Kids always ask them, they go, what's required? I said, I don't know. You need to be there. Otherwise, why are you in this stupid class? Like, come on, kids. So we're going to have some rehearsals in May and June to teach parade fundamentals. And the outcome of that will be students that participate in a certain number of those will then be enabled, allowed, invited to participate in Derby Days, a parade performance this summer. So that'll be the first time that we're going to do that as a group.
Do you know what day is it in Derby?
I try to look it up if somebody
It's
could help
usually
me
the
out.
weekend after July 4th. So
Yeah, it's almost always in that mid-early
It's not
July
July 4th
area.
weekend.
So if, you know, and it's again one of those situations like if kids can't make it, it's not the end of the world. It's a first step, and I do want to make it sort of an annual expectation that our band is there. We're Redmond's high school band. Like, we should be at Redmond's town, you know, parade. It feels very much like it's built for us to be there. Dance and cheer are already going to be there, so we're going to be a unit together. They're waiting on me to basically pick some music and do some arrangements and put together a piece, and then we'll be a little unit and go down the street together. It's going to be fun. And what you do with that, by the way, is you put the dance in front, you put the cheer behind, you put the band in the middle, so everybody goes, wow, those dancers, wow, those cheer people, with the music in the middle, because, you know, that's the way you distract all the eyes when you're first learning how to parade march. It'll be really fun. It's going to be a good experience. That comes with, you know, the kids are going to get, we're going to be talking a lot about walking in time while at the same time as playing your instrument, which will be 4 classes of freshmen in a marching band, because none of them will have ever really experienced that at all before. So it's going to be a lot. I have a lot of experience teaching it. It's my entire 12 years that I've been teaching band. This is the first year I haven't spent a single moment talking about taking an 8 to 5 step size on a field and march and like knowing your step size. Like, it's kind of been odd not talking about that with these kids. So I'm actually really excited to bring that to them because it's such a passion area for me, and I think it's really important that we're doing it. And it ties into some of the other things. I'll get back to that later. Okay. More band camp days. Oh yeah, so later in 2024, we are also talking about more band camp days. So I'm going to be talking with our athletic director about when I can do that so it doesn't overlap with athletics very much. That was a huge problem this last summer. Heads up, that probably means we're going to get moved earlier in the summer because I don't know how else to do it. It gets really challenging to do a week-long band camp as late in the year as has happened typically without having kids go, I've got this practice and I've got this. It's like, I can't run a band camp. I need to come out of that with every kid having the same experience as much as possible. Because otherwise, again, why are we doing this? Like, I need to have that thing happening. Because I'm going to be spending every one of those minutes teaching how to put your feet in time, memorizing music, teaching new pep band tunes, fixing old pep band tunes, working on new drumline cadences, working on fundamental techniques that, there's a lot to do. And unfortunately, people that miss it, it really hurts. So I want to try to get that schedule out to you guys as soon as I can. But it will oftentimes mean that we have to be a little bit more early in the year just to kind of make it work. We're talking about, it may not be until 2025, that's why I can put that up there as an or, because it's a lot of work to do, but we are kind of excited about maybe another fundraising opportunity to start a band camp over the summer for 4th through 7th graders. There's a really great model we have from our basketball friends here at the school. Reaching into my community of coaches, we can have some adults come and help run some bands, and then put our kids to work in teaching kids and helping them with their instruments. We think it would be a really great slam dunk if we get some kids registered to start that up. So there's another place if somebody has passion and wants to start talking about making a committee of people and starting to maybe plan that, we can start whenever. I'm ready to start talking details. So. Okay. Whew. Need some water. Okay. You guys remember this one? One herd, one home, one band, one sound.
That's on the stickers, you're not changing it, right?
I'm not. It's not about to like have like an animation that just like watch it just blow up, new words flying. No. I want to come back to this because I think this to me, as a person that's grown up in both the marching discipline and in just the band tradition as a whole, has really experienced what this means, not just as we sound the same kind of a thing, like we're supposed to sound really pretty together, but that we like move the same, that we like think the same, about certain things. Obviously, we're not like making a bunch of automatons in our band, but that we're talking about deeper stuff than just like playing your notes in tune with each other. And some of the decisions that I'm making and that I want to try to bring to you, I think hits home some of the values that's kind of embedded in this motto, which I think is such a strong motto to be thinking about in terms of the way we build our program. I think the one herd kind of is like we all belong to the same place. The one home is the sense of family. The one band is kind of like the belief that we all share, that community, that sense of community we all have, and then the one sound is the excellent musicianship. So I think they all kind of come together into one thing, which is kind of where I want to talk a little bit more about this transition and kind of where I'm coming from. The excitement I have here and the belief I have here is that most high school band programs have a program like this that marches for good reason. A lot of my colleagues that have been teaching for a long time, they know it's a lot of work. They are like, really, you want to start a marching band up? Like you landed a job where there's no marching band, why don't you just let it be? It's like you get to go home more evenings. And I was like, I know, but I want to build something. And I actually think that this has a big piece of it that we could be doing. It's the most visible performance piece that we do. You guys know how important, how much fun, and how visible our pep band is at the games, how important that is. And as much as we're doing right, and as much fun as our kids are having, there's a whole lot that's untapped there. There's a whole lot that's untapped, especially in terms of impact, in terms of uniformity, in terms of sound, in terms of instrumentation, in terms of the discipline we're teaching our kids, the system that helps like improve the types of citizens and kids that we're raising up throughout the whole program. I think we've got some untapped potential that's really exciting to me. And that's where I think that this shift is really important. I have some pictures up here of random green and gold marching bands. What do you think? Those look pretty good. This means, of course, that students would be out in front of the audience rather than just alongside of them. I think that's actually really important. Talk about increasing visibility, also increasing a sense of pride. Students that participate in these half times that I've been a part of, whether it's something that we work on all season for some programs or in others where we've worked on a new show every couple weeks, kind of like your college band experience is, the kids they ooze excitement about those performances. And it's a different group of kids than maybe you would have gotten before, right? It's the kids that already do love pep band and not much else. But now it's even more that thing that they strive for. They may never be in wind ensemble. They may never have a festival performance or experience, but now they've had a Friday night thing, or they've gone to a parade and gotten a trophy or whatever it is. That corner has been really fed well in a very high kind of level that's really meant a lot to them. The other things that are up here, just so you kind of know why I'm showing this, is that this kind of feeds into some of the equipment goals and things we have to talk about. We got French horns playing backwards French horns for marching. They're facing their horns backwards. We don't do that in marching band land. We face our horns forward at the audience. So we got some work to do there. We got kids holding euphoniums that point up to the sky. That doesn't work. We don't have any pictures of leaky sousaphones on the board, but we're still working on fixing those. Right? We got kids playing through a sousaphone, the air's coming out every which side. Our drum equipment is not in complete disarray, but it's pretty out of date for what the modern practice is, and it's in dire need of a unification. The harnesses are awful. And for kids that are going to be using them for even more hours, they need to be improved. And I'm sorry, but sitting and playing drums just looks very unprofessional. We need to get some stadium stands. We gotta get kids standing and playing their drums like the rest of the band. We're talking about kids, we gotta stand up, and then the whole drum section's down. They're going boom, 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 boom. You know, it's Donkey Kong in the front. So it's about time that we start talking about the equipment refreshes that are necessary to kind of get that uniformity going to match the tradition. And I think this is kind of like, this is where a lot of the work's gonna be. Marching band's a tradition, in my opinion, that emphasizes unity, discipline, tradition, and excellence, and does it in the same way that people might be afraid, like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to lose like the fun that is pep band. And for me, when I talk about this, we forget that once we go up in the stands, it's basically the same thing that we were doing before. It's just you're wearing a uniform now, maybe, right? Instead of the jacket that nobody wants to wear, right? There's a thing we wear that actually looks good, and we're in uniform. That, by the way, another big challenge. We'll get there. We'll keep talking about it. But this, to me, is such a key piece of why I want to see that next level, because I think that during the fall, when I have all my kids together, this is the best chance for me to teach every one of them in a way that we talk about the one band, one sound that we can't do for the rest of the year. And if we do a really good job of it, we've got such a great foundation for an entire 9 months of kicking butt, right? If we really do a good job of it. And the kids will be hungry for more of it if we're doing it right. So big differences: unity approach, including uniforms, everyone standing, more precision, more memorization. That's a difference. It requires a little bit more time. Marching technique means we get on the field and perform, so we gotta learn shows. So we'll have to figure out how we rehearse those and get the time to do that, right? But that's part of that piece. Addition of parades and other performance opportunities. If you can march, then you can do more performances. If you can't march, then you can basically go to games and play. That's kind of what happens. So it opens up a few more doors for the group. Everything else is mostly the same, you know. Kids working in sectionals, section leaders, drum majors, pep band music, the fight song, drum line gets to do cool cadences. Like all that stuff stays the same, right? It's just kind of another notch to it, okay? Cool. So with that comes my suggestion for our fund and need for this coming year, which is the drumline equipment refresh. I think it's one of the easiest in terms of lowest hanging branches when it comes to the money piece. That seems like a big number. But it is something that your admin will get excited about. It's something your community will get excited about, and I already know that that section tends to be excitable, and a section that we can build around as the way they've been working and rehearsing and their sort of presence in the band. This includes new instruments, matched new instruments, possibly even green ones, right? Something that kind of looks like the Redmond colors. This includes stadium stands, so something that students can set up. You saw in those pictures before, where all the battery instruments, which is the snare, the tenor, and the bass drums, are all upright and supported. And then new carriers, ones with actual padding and truly well-fitted modern carriers for students, so they can wear them for an hour at a time and feel like it's supported on their body and fits them. This is before reaching a quote estimate. We probably can get some deals through some people as being in education, but I think that's a general target number to be aiming for a new drumline refresh. Doesn't leave a ton of room for growth. We'd have almost every one of those instruments used pretty quickly, but there's still a little bit of room in there. So it's not like but I think it's a great fund and need suggestion for us to be thinking about, whatever our big fundraiser is, whatever we're trying to pass the hat around, whatever our next big idea is. I think we need to start thinking about how we're going to make that happen. This is not we need to hit a target and then we can purchase these instruments and no one else is going to help us, right? It'd be a strategy we'd work with our school community, just like with everything. I'm not going to just come to you all and say, please buy me this. It's let's work together and figure out who and how we can get this done kind of approach. But the same thing will be said if I go to the school and said, please buy me a new drum line. They'll say, and who else are you asking, right? Where's the community to help support this mission? If we're going to continue on this track, and I just want to be really transparent with you, it's a pretty big track. It's a huge one. When we did the painting in the band room, we had to take everything off the walls, and I was going through every single plaque before putting anything back up, and we still haven't put most of them back up again. But I was just going through all the plaques just like out of interest, and there's one on there that's like 1989, I think, and it thanks like 50 people or something. Is it older than that?
It's the
96, okay. That has 40, 50 names on it, and it's a thanking them for their contributions to purchasing the Redmond band uniforms. So we have a date. It's basically been about 30 years, which is about as long as a uniform's supposed to be around. we don't have enough anyways for what we currently have. They're not in the greatest shape. One of the things that's up here that we need to acknowledge, and probably the biggest one, this one at the very bottom, is the new marching uniforms. It's a really, we have to be very upfront about it. It is a big six-figure number. A big six-figure number. It's not a, we're gonna do this in a year or two, it's like 5.
Because you're talking not just uniforms, you're talking raincoats and.
Yeah, if possible, we'll get there too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you wanna try and get as much as you can. And if we're also meeting our goals of growth, like we need to plan for growth, and there's things to be thinking about there. As you work your way back up, right, we can think about like maybe an update to our athletic band uniform or the way we look for things like basketball, and that might be a nice stepping stone for our appearance this summer. Maybe we just use t-shirts, we'll figure it out, right? We'll think about that might be. We have an opportunity to think about that. Sousaphones, baritones, mellophones, those instruments all need to be updated for what we're doing. They're not the right instrument or in right repair, so we need to get to work on those things. Just so you have the numbers, one sousaphone, even with education discount, is about a $7,000 purchase. So I got 2 of them this year. That's already $14,000 off of our goals. Yippee! And it wasn't from booster purchases, so we used school funds and some extra support from the school beyond my account to be able to get those. So we're making small pieces of this happen already. Sorry, I should stop here. This is kind of the end of talking about marching band. Any other questions or anything about this at the moment? Yeah.
I mean, this question is not just about marching band, but in general, I'm curious also, outside of marching band, what is your assessment of the instrument condition?
Yeah, it's
The rest of the program.
moderate to acceptable to poor. It depends on the section. Some sections we're really good with, and we do have a pretty large number of instruments in some of our sections. But when it comes to the a chance I'm going to pick up an instrument that's working is pretty low still, so I'm still going, I need to do more repairs. I've been back to doing actual work. We live in a community where a lot of our kids are providing their own instruments as well, so I'm kind of been slowing down on my plans to try to recover, try to do that work as quickly as I thought I might need to, because I think a lot of our students are filling that gap with having nice instruments in hand, and I've been able to sort of 911 repair or get what I need in the meantime to fill just a few little gaps. But yeah, quality of some of our sections is pretty low. Saxophones are constantly falling apart, and we don't have enough for even the current need. Bassoons are pretty bad quality. Don't have many kids playing that instrument. That's another thing we gotta figure out. But
Are any of those instruments you apply for marching band? Is there like
a crossover. The biggest crossover is like low brass in general. Trombones is like the one that can be used both in the concert hall and on the field, but generally speaking, you don't give it's just like a good clarinet player doesn't bring out their $3,000 or more wood buffet clarinet. They march the crappy one they bought in 6th grade because the rain and the elements just ruin the nice instruments. So if I'm investing in a F attachment, large bore trombone, I'm probably not handing to the kid who doesn't have any other instruments so that he can march with it, because I'd rather keep that inside in good condition. I'd rather have them playing like the little, the beater that they've had for a while. Not that we don't want good quality on the field too. Like we want our instruments working, so we have to find like a middle ground, but there is a few sections that overlap, but not many,
And then last question, of all the things that you were suggesting in the marching band, is there relative prioritization like when you talked about harnesses and safety, I'm like, that seems
really important. It's really hard to do any of those things without doing the others, because certain elements in the drumline equipment world only are adopted with the equipment that they're designed for. Like it's not universal, and they fit a lot better so generally speaking, like I would say, let's go Yamaha 8300 line, and then that way we know we get these Yamaha stands and these Yamaha carriers, they fit perfectly, it's all bam, we're good, right? Or we get lucky and UW's getting rid of their old Pearl stuff, and then we go now we're all Pearl, whatever. Tends to be a lot more effective. Doesn't mean that we couldn't do a little bit of prioritization, like buy the carriers, and for me it would be the stands, because I want to stop sitting. Followed by, because we're going to be doing marching practices, the carriers that are well fitted for the kids, and then last would be the instruments. I think that would be the right order to do it, because you can still work on the technique on instruments that aren't perfect, right? You can still be doing the work and learning the new music and all that stuff. So. Anything else there for now? Yeah.
How does the administration on the athletic department feel about marching band, and what's their level of support going to be, both financially, if any,
Yeah.
and, I don't know, spiritually or?
I was hired with an enthusiasm behind this this vision already, because pieces of it were shared back and forth between admin and me very early on. So it's not like they didn't know my background and my passions for some of these areas. So I won't say that there's not support. There's quite a bit, actually, I think, and spiritually, if you want to use that word, right? Like in word, they're in faith. They're like, yes, this is awesome. In fact, drumline's been brought up a number of times as like some magical fix and excitement, that we can do in our program. When it comes to financial, things are tough. We can't be dishonest about this. We're in a choke moment in the district when it comes to finances, right? So there's not a lot of giving, there's a lot of taking, there's a lot of protecting. So me getting $7,000 just for asking for a new sousaphone this year was pretty awesome. Those things are still happening at our school. I don't expect that to happen much next year, but we'll see. Athletics doesn't really have a lot to contribute right now either, based on their down revenue and up on their travel expenses has been so high that they're extraordinarily tight in telling people to drive their kids to events. So it's been tough, is what my understanding is. I think they want to support. They definitely want to make time in the calendar and help with the, what do you need to have this happen? The field use, the timing, the support that you need, the messaging, whatever. I think they're all there for that. That's my understanding. So, and I think and the kids' willingness to be enthusiastic and support the athletics as well as they have, when they show up to a game, they're always having so much fun. I think our athletic director sees that and sees my willingness to, I've already tried some things. He's asked me to do some things like moving the basketball game or whatever. We have a great relationship. So I think there's already a desire to support each other, so.
Will they march in basketball as well as football, or?
No, basketball tends to look a lot the same. That's like, you show up in a shirt and the most uniform you'll get is like a t-shirt and a basketball, or a baseball hat or something, like that's about as uniform as you get for basketball, for most bands. They do fall really intensive, and then you do the rest of the year a little lighter. Yeah. Good.
One more question.
Of course.
Based on your past experience,
Yeah.
Of course, the value of the marching band would be to provide the experience to kids.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, how does this help when it comes to students moving on to colleges and college marching bands? How do colleges think of high school marching bands? That was a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. To get back to some of this stuff before I move on, because I think this kind of talks to us a little bit, is some of these elements that I was talking about at the beginning, in particular about education for post-secondary opportunities, right? That kind of piece. Also this whole thing about future educators, more skill sets for kids that might want to educate and be in my position someday. To me, this really plays into that in a big way. I believe in trying to find the balance where like the kids get the skill set that like they could walk into a university anywhere and be ready to learn their technique, but not be burnt out and not want to do it. Because there are some programs around the country that take fall and they turn it into a varsity sport, and your kids are at school 4 times a week and they're memorizing a show, and we're spending $40,000 on a 2-month season, and then those kids graduate and like none of them continue because they're like had it done. You know what I mean? One of my pride and joys is that the kid that was playing center snare on for that game that we were already trying to forget about last night is a former Newport kid from my last program, and we had about 20 students not at the same time, roughly about 15 I think at the same time, of my own alumni marching in that band, and at the same time 5 or 6 or 7 other kids in other programs across the country, because they had that experience and that was like the perfect segue, right? It wasn't like they were burnt out, like we were hungry for that, I want more. Now I go to this experience and I have the skill sets, they audition, they make it in, and now they're part of this community and doing the marching experience.
And that's an asset for the students as well. There are colleges in the country that pay these kids stipends to be in marching band and pep band. Montana State is one of them.
Yep.
The colleges really, really value it. You don't have homecoming without a marching band. That's that alumni feel. It brings everybody back. It brings back money. So they get a return on their investment. So it's one extra feather in their cap in a college application.
Yep, absolutely. And there's something to be said too about like that sense of belonging that kids have, like when they walk into a band camp at high school, they get to do that in an even bigger campus at college. Like if they join whatever music thing they decide to do. It's just one more opportunity, like you said, one more feather in their cap to say, I have one more community I can get plugged into. So, yeah.
And then coming out that Holy Student Side, somebody actually, I was glad that you can speak to.
Yeah, I think it's a personal responsibility for me to give this message and for us to try to figure it out, because I think our kids deserve that opportunity. I think it really does do a lot for them. Yeah, and also to play into my other goal of growth. I think also, again, knowing how visible a marching band is and how powerful that can be in a community, that only just feeds our own program too. I mean, it's just one more way to say, like, look what we're doing. We're proud of ourselves. We're out there. We're doing this. So. Okay, trying to go quickly through the next couple. I think that was kind of the big one to talk about tonight, just because it is a big one to think about and chew on. I'm really passionate about this project too. I think what's really impactful for people that are spending money to support a booster organization is to see their kids have impact on what they're doing. And if they don't get the new shiny sousaphone, sometimes it can feel like they're not getting their fair share of it. And this has been one of the most effective programs that I've ever had run in my band classroom, is bringing in regular coaching that the boosters help support. I've also worked with the PTSA to help have some money coming in from that source or other sources. But we'll need to kind of make an investment on this and think that this is something we might want to do for next year. This is where you have people that run private studios, or they're university staff, or they are other local teachers that have availability that come into our school during your classroom. And we do pull out sectionals or lessons or opportunities for kids on their instrument with professionals that really know their stuff. Yes, I can teach a kid a fingering on a bassoon. No, I cannot really teach them how to fix their double reed issue. I can't really give them the nuance of like the articulation that a real bassoonist could get them at their level, right? I might help an 8th grader get sounding better. There's a certain limit to what we can do as educators in a classroom full of 40 kids when our goal is to make ensemble music, which is already so hard to do well, that this just takes it to another level. So a proposal for us to be thinking about is what this might look like for Redmond, where we have each of our 3 bands being visited by a coach at least once a week throughout the entire year. Every single kid gets 3, maybe 4 meetings with a professional that cares about their instrument dearly, like they're a nerd on their instrument. They love this instrument. They've been playing it their entire lives. They're enthusiastic about it, and they've driven all the way to our school to be a resource for your kid, I think that that's a really wide net to cast. It does things that are educationally and curricularly really strong. It says we're going to help everybody, not just our strongest. We're not just coaching our state ensemble kids, right? We're trying to help every single student advance in their technique. I think that that's a really strong statement to make, and I think it's a very appropriate statement to make. Coaching is, depending on the day and how many people would be there, it's about $150 to $250 per person. If we set aside, or we're able to identify a $10,000 annual budget, we would make such an impact. Even if we did 50% of that, we'd be able to do a lot of good work. You know what I mean? It would just be incredible. I have contacts, I know these people, I can reach out and get people here. That's not the problem, right? It's just knowing that we got to be able to pay them, because they're not going to do it pro bono more than once. They might come out like, I'll get them out once, be like, hey, come meet my kids. Be like, all right, because they might get a couple students out of it, right? But that's about the end of it, because they've got busy schedules too. So that's a proposal and a thought I have moving forward. If we have and we're able to identify a budget within our end of year thing, we've raised really good money, we've done well in 2024, and we're able to set aside even half of that amount or a portion of that we can identify as a coaching budget for regular coaching, we can get started on this next year. I'll identify the time of year that makes the highest impact, and we'll get people in. Questions on that or any thoughts before I keep moving forward?
So is that you would bring in a bassoonist, and that day the bassoonists go off into another room, and
Right.
next week it's trumpets, and
Right.
yeah.
Yep. And they get to meet their person. And the goal then with that, that bassoon person is the bassoon person. It's not, and now we get to meet this person, and now this person. I'd rather they actually develop a relationship with that human, get a chance to ask them a question, then follow up with that person again. And that shows, just like another human that cares about their instrument, they have a relationship with, rather than a random visitor, right? That tends to be fun, but there's not a depth there that comes with the repeated visits, if that makes sense. So. This is really quick. That's a nice typo there. The 10% enrollment goal for 2026-27 means we have roughly 230 kids in our band. That's an increase of about 100 students over the course of like 3-4 years. I think we can do it with the right aim and the right goal. We are facing some challenges. The FTE is a big one. in our school. So we might need some advocacy in pieces where we continue to push. In the coming years, we're going to try and do more when it comes to being in the middle schools. I would propose and offer something for us to be thinking about. Another thing that maybe someone here gets excited about, I'm just mentioning it, that we have a middle school liaison or somebody who is focused on the cross connection, inviting 8th grade families into what we're doing so they can see the excitement of the high school program, especially as we continue to do what we're doing and do great things. There might be something that we could do there that would really assist. And then as we're doing things like our weekly communications, maybe involving them in that or getting things to them so they know what's going on at the high school level, I think would be really powerful. Acknowledging the continuing challenges around the Jazz 2 situation, FTE that faces there. There may be a place for parent advocacy to come when the time has come and when we identify what needs to happen there to try to help solve that challenge. I would love to start 2024 with a solution next school year, 24-25. So that every kid that wants to do jazz is doing it. That's part of our growth. If we're going to have growth, we need to be able to offer that. So these are the kind of things that we need to figure out. Just want to go really quickly through these. I'm listing all these up here just because I don't want to fill it with words, otherwise it would just be words all over the place. Generally speaking, all these things you see on the board, again, I really believe in that every kid, I think, will find, and some of the students, even the ones that are here, probably, I think, have a love for more than one of the things that they're a part of, right? They're part of jazz band because they're really passionate about jazz music, but they love wind ensemble. They love coming to pep games, right? Everybody can love everything. But I like to think about these tendencies like maybe meeting different kids' needs and being really good about making sure each one of them is getting really high-level experiences. General goals and targets for all these is that all these students in all these programs, which are kind of the top of what we're trying to do, whether it's the jazz band attending a local festival in the next 2 years, 3 years, and getting a top 3 placement, right? That kind of a goal set. Whether it's a target of wind ensemble getting accepted when we put in a tape for a state spot, for an all-state performance docket. Whether it's the marching band putting on their first halftime show. That's a different level for where we're at right now, right? But there's some general targets and things we can think about in all these different areas. New events to raise more money, new opportunities for kids to get out in the community and do more playing. And then that final piece is like some new destinations, like seeing our kids hop on an airplane and cross an ocean to go be in a parade in another country and then play you know what I mean? That kind of like globalization that music can have and that global reach and those opportunities. These are things that I see as exciting kind of carrots on the stick for why we do the work we're doing. And the more, talking about the feather and the cap kind of approach, the more that we do well in all these different areas, the more opportunities open for the kids and just the more we can do with it. It's gonna take a lot of effort, it's gonna take a lot of time, it's gonna take a lot of passion, it's gonna take a lot of money, it's gonna take a lot of work. For me, I'm signing up for more work whenever I say that I wanna do these things. But they're all really worth it. So those are just some general thoughts I have on all the different places and things that we can go with all these different areas. Generally, that's all I had to share today for now. I think that says a lot about what I wanted to think and share and what I've been thinking about in the last couple of weeks. Do you have any other questions for me about anything that's coming up?